Hey there and welcome to this special edition of In the Labs with me, Becky. Now in this video I'm going to show you how to create this Christmas tree candle holder. So it's a slot together project that enables you to house these battery powered tea lights. So let's go into the software and we'll take a look at how we did this. Okay then, so in the project folder you're going to see a file called Christmas tree candle holder.crv. Now I've designed this in VCarve Pro. You can also use this in Aspire as well. Okay, so when you open up the file, you've got this message. It's just warning you that you must check the toolpaths according to your own material, the tools that you're using, and things like that. Okay, so when you first open up the project, you'll see that the job size that I'm working with is 19 inches wide by 48 inches high. The material thickness that I'm using is 0.49, so it's crucial that there's parts of the design that match up to that material thickness. Now in terms of our layers, you can see we've got a layer here called layout to adjust for material Z. So what do I mean by that? So in terms of everything that needs to slot together, you need to ensure that we're slotting them according to the material thickness that you will be using. Okay, so this is currently set up to the material thickness that I'm using, the 0.49, but you're going to want to change the height of the slots. So it's all of the slots that are on the actual Christmas tree, as well as the slot on the base. And so all you're going to want to do is just alter the height. Okay, so uncheck link XY and then enter the height according to the material thickness that you are using, and then that will adjust accordingly. Along with that, you need to ensure that you fillet all of the corners for those slots. So you're going to use the fillet tool, or you're going to input the tool radius of the tool that you actually plan to use to cut out these slots. Now I'm using a 1/4 inch tool, so I've got a tool radius there of 1/8 of an inch, and I can simply go along all the corners using the dog bone fillet option to create those dog bones in order for us to clear out those internal corners, so that when we slot the parts together everything will fit perfectly. There's nothing that we'll need to manually sand away. Okay, so that's pretty much that. So you're going to change the material, you're going to change the slots to the material thickness that you're using, and you need to make sure that you input all of those fillets. Another thing you also need to consider is the diameter of the tea light holder that you're going to use. Okay, so my tea light measures a diameter of just under 1.5, so I've kind of just gone with a circle of 1.5 there. So again, just adjust that if you need to. Then what I've done is I've just basically laid everything out for machining, so you can see it kind of fits in with my sheet. I've got this snowflake that I drew up, which I plan to VCarve. Okay, and because we're VCarving into plywood, it's going to bring out those layers, which, as you all know, I love that effect. Okay, we've got some circles across the base. So this whole area is the base that's going to hold the tree up. Okay, so as you've seen right at the start of this video, it's kind of sat in a base. So tree is going to slot into this gap here. We've got VCarve toolpath that we're going to use with this vector here. And then we've got our tea light holders that we're just going to pocket down a short amount, just so that we can kind of slot those tea lights in place. Okay, then we've got extra tea light holders here. Okay, so these are going to slot in to the slots that you can see on the Christmas tree, and that way we can make it kind of a two-sided object, so it doesn't matter which way you face it. So this will be perfect if you want it in, let's say, a window, and yet you still want to look at it from inside of the room, so you get the views of both sides where the lights are on the actual tree itself. Okay, at the bottom here, I've created this test area. Okay, so this is just to check the allowances that I'll apply using the pocket toolpath to ensure that our parts slot together nicely. It's not too tight, neither is it too loose. So we've got this test section. So in terms of the toolpath, let's have a look at what we've got there. So we'll just switch over and then we'll just tile our window. Okay then, so let's take a look at the toolpath. So you can see in our toolpath tree, I've got a group here created called test cuts, and that's for this portion of the test area that I spoke about just. So within there we've got pocket candle holder, okay, so that's just pocketing the areas that we're going to slot our tea lights into, okay, so it's very basic pocket toolpath, cutting down 1/4 inch using a down cut tool. That's just going to ensure that we're pushing all the material down so it's not going to lift anything on the top surface. Okay, and then we can close out there. Next up, we've got the pocket holes, okay, so that's these slots here. So these are basically going to represent the holes that we're going to have in the tree as well as the stand. And we're just checking that this portion is going to fit into this part here, and this portion is going to fit into this slot here. So this portion representing the actual bottom of the tree itself. So to do that, let's go into the pocket holes and we'll take a look at some of the things we've got in there. So this time we're actually cutting all the way through the material, and we're using a 1/4 inch tool, except this time we're actually using a compression bit. So we're having both the upward and the downward portion of the tool cutting at the material. So the top surface will be machined away using the down portion of the tool, and then the bottom will be machined away using the upward cut portion of the tool, and that's just going to give us a nice clean cut. Okay, in terms of your pocket allowance, I've put in a negative overcut here, so we're doing that by 0.005. It's just a value that I've gone with in the past and it seems to work, but as always, I always like to do a test run just to check, especially when working with different thicknesses of material. It's always good to just do a test piece to ensure that you've got the right solid fit before moving on. And if this is too loose, I'll know to reduce that, and if it's too tight, then I'll know to increase that. Okay, so that's why we do these test cuts in the first place, just to kind of ensure that we're just applying it to certain areas so we're not wasting time and material by applying those settings without testing them on everything else. Okay, so after that we've got a profile cutout, so just cutting out all of those parts, and with that we're just cutting all the way through using that compression bit, machining on the outside. I've got a few tabs in there to hold all the parts in place, and that's pretty much it. Now this portion of the material, I'm actually using double-sided tape to hold it all down. And the reason for that is because then I'm going to just run a cutout piece, which is just a rectangle that represents that test area. That's not going to be tabbed in place, just so I can easily remove it from the machine in order for me to check that everything fits perfectly without having to move the whole material around. Now, assuming that everything runs perfectly with these test pieces, then I'm just going to apply those same settings to the rest of the design. So again, we've got the pocket for the candle holders, that's all of your tea lights. We've got a VCarve toolpath for this snowflake that you can see over here. So for this, I'm using a 90-degree V-bit tool, and hopefully the effect we'll see from that is all of the layers that come through once we've cut away at the plywood using that V-bit tool. So I'm hoping that we get a nice effect there. Then we've got the pockets for the holes, so that's all of the slots on the Christmas tree as well as on the base of the tree, and again that's using the pocket allowance of negative 0.005, assuming that's okay, but obviously if my test proves differently then I'll change it at this point. And then we've got our profile cutout, so here cutting all the way through using that compression 1/4 inch tool. We've got tabs in there. Also got ramps and leads. Okay, so we're just kind of being conscious of the life of the tool. So rather than plunging directly vertically into material, we're just going to do that at an angle, and we're also going to lead in as well, just to keep that tool away from the finished surface cut out of our part. Okay then, so all in all, everything should kind of look like this. Okay, so we've got our test pieces there, and we've got all of the pockets, the V-bit, and then all of the cutouts and our slots. Right then, so let's head over to the labs and machine this. So the first set of cuts we've got is the test area of our project. Here we're cutting the pockets for the tea light holders, and so we're just going to check that the tea lights fit in there nicely. So there you go, fits in perfectly. We've got a nice bit of give in there as well, so I'm happy with that. Next up, we're running the other parts where crucially we're checking that the plywood can fit into the slots that we're creating. Remember, we've got negative allowances on those slots, so we just want to make sure that we've got a nice snug fit so that ultimately our tree can stand in the base and all of the candle holders can stand firmly within the tree as well. So we're just removing all of those parts, checking the fit. Perfect in this case, I was happy with that, so I was then confident to go ahead and run the rest of the file using those same settings. Obviously, if those settings don't work for you in your test, then please ensure that you retest until you get the settings that work. Okay then, so now we're pocketing all of those tea light holders and we're switching to a V-bit here to create that decorative snowflake motif that's going to be on the base. And again, you may have seen in other videos, I really love the effects that you get from cutting into plywood. All of those stripes from the layers coming through, I think looks really effective. After that, we're then running the profile and the pocket toolpath just to cut all of the parts out along with all of the slot holes. So with that all done, it's just a case of detabbing everything, and you can see the tree fits perfectly into the base there. So now it's just cleaning up those tabs. I put in quite small tabs, so it's very minimal clean up there. And you can see now I'm just inserting all of the candle holders, ready to put all of the tea lights in place. You can see there it looks really effective. So that completes this project. Now if you fancy having a go at creating your own version of this Christmas tree candle holder, then simply head over to your VCarve account where you can download the project files from there. And if you like this video, then give us a thumbs up, and if you've not yet subscribed to our channel, then please hit the subscribe button for instant updates on the latest videos that we'll be releasing. So thank you for watching and happy making!